And there we are. We're live. Hi,
Maybe.
Tony.
We never really know if we're live.
Yeah, well, I mean,
we
we'll
always
take a couple of seconds.
Just at the beginning.
Clock right there that says live, so I don't know.
I know, but we've got to wait. We waffle for a few seconds while it gets to LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
It should be there now.
LinkedIn. Yeah, cool. We're here. Yeah. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Hear the People. Now, last week, I think I delivered quite an intro. The challenge is, can I deliver it twice? So, welcome to Hear the People, an oasis of calm on a Wednesday every 2 weeks, an hour where you can join us and join the people community to discuss what's really important to you. If you're a business owner, founder, co-founder, hiring manager, team leader, we have guests that are going to revolutionize the way that you think about your team, your people. And on that note, this week's guest is Katrina.
I don't know what Glenn is smoking, but it's quite interesting.
I need some of that.
I need some of that as well. That was quite out there. I think these intros are going to get even more entertaining over time. But more importantly, our amazing guest today is that Tracey Parsons. I mean, I would say the, but apparently it's that.
Boom.
Aren't you? You're that Tracey, who is one of my favorite humans, but an expert in all things, internal mobility, redeployment. And I can't wait to have quite an interesting conversation about layoffs, especially. And of course, you created WORQDRIVE, which I particularly love. But give us a feedback. Give us a bit of feedback. Give us some background.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I just left my brain.
You can give us some feedback on the intro.
I just point out that it's afternoon for you and morning for me. So hopefully, thank you.
Really afternoon. It's like 1 o'clock
for me. I appreciate that. I am not, particularly the best morning person, but yeah, I'm Tracey Parsons on Twitter and most social media as that Tracey. I started my career in the late 1900s, as my son likes to say, in recruiting. And so that makes me feel decrepit. And, everything digital, right? So I look at my career and the chaos that we have in the talent market space as all the things that we hate about it. I feel like they are unintended consequences of all the things that I did back then.
You hold totally responsibility for it.
All of it.
Yeah, yes, I do. And it's one of the reasons why I keep trying to create and why I keep trying to solve and why I keep trying to fix, because, helping people go from newspapers to job boards in the 90s and placing banner ads on the internet for recruiting in the 90s led to some of the horrible experiences that we have today. And I do feel responsible in some respects for what we've created and some of the awful experiences that exist. And it's one of the reasons why I continue to wake up every day going, okay, there has to be a more egalitarian way to do this. There has to be more of a symbiotic relationship we can create with talent. And we are going to have to do that by hearing them and listening to them. So when I saw that your podcast was Hear the Talent, I've had a consultancy for the last.
Yeah. Hear the people.
Hear the people, right?
Yeah. I know, but it confuses because the link still has Hear the Talent. Actually, just on that, anybody who is tuned in on LinkedIn, we are live on LinkedIn on Glenn and my profile. It would be better to follow the link over to Crowdcast for Hear the Talent over there if you really want to make comments, because you can write comments on LinkedIn and weirdly I can't reply to them while we're live. It's very weird, but LinkedIn's an enigma. And I'm not watching the Facebook one at all, so because I know you all know to come over here.
Come to Crowdcast.
Sorry, you just led me up beautifully for that. Yeah. But we started with Hear the Talent and then I got irritated by that word and went, but we're people.
Yeah, I mean,
well, and it's one of the things what words you choose matter.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. And I think we lose sight of that a lot of times. Like when I'm working on language for employers and I'm maybe working on employer brand or recruitment marketing, we've stopped even using the word our because it creates that separation. Ours versus yours and theirs. Yeah. So, it's the team versus our team. But the words you choose matter, like all of the nomenclature under the layers of code in WORQDRIVE. Nobody's a user.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like
Ew.
the user. Yeah. I
Ew.
mean, that's 100%, right? So, we started with, and it quite literally was during the first show, we were like, hear the talent smelling. Let's go for hear the people. And it was, it's kind of one of those moments where you start to think about, again, the words and what this particular live show, what we want to achieve from it. So that's cool. And in terms of what we did back in the kind of late 90s and everything along those lines, look, we can't blame ourselves, right? We were doing what was cool then, and we felt we were changing things for the better.
Yes.
If we continue to do that now, I think we'd have to hold our hands up. But we're trying to make it more human first, right? Yeah, exactly. Hence
absolutely.
Hence what we're talking about
we were
today.
Trying to broaden opportunities. Like I'm not saying it was what I am saying is that all of those things, every choice we make, every decision we make has an unintended consequence. And sometimes we choose to double down on that unintended consequence, and that makes things worse. Right. So I think we're at this inflection point where we can make choices to hear the people. Like we can start actually listening to the people we need to join our companies and stay at our companies. And we can actually start making impacts by putting the focus on their voices.
100%.
I mean, one of the great things that you've done with WORQDRIVE is do that before they're writing it on Recruiting Hell in Reddit, or they're writing it on Glassdoor, isn't it? So tell people who crazily don't know about WORQDRIVE, which is with a Q, not a K, of course. Well, just give us a bit of background about that, because it does relate to our conversation.
Well, it does. Well. And, WORQDRIVE was created because I found that in my blah, blah, blah length career, very rarely do we.
You said 1900s. So, yeah. He means like 1901, right? Like not like...
No, totally. Yeah. I said late 1900s. But one of the
90s sounds so much better than the late 1900s.
Oh yeah.
It? Oh my gosh.
He loves this kid likes to mess with me. But it's really interesting because most HR technology is built for business use cases, right? It's built for the business because that's who buys technology. But it's never built for people. It's never built for people to use it. So we kind of came at it from a different angle. And when we think about mobility, I look at my own history, and you can probably look at your own histories and say, oh gosh, right. So when I was ready to move to a new role within the company, I didn't really want to leave. And I talked to my manager, and the manager was like, yeah. We have a plan for you. Or somebody over here is discussing your future, or somebody over here is talking about what's next for you. And why is it your plan? Like, this is my career,
my life.
And how dare you know what I might want next?
Yeah.
Right. We have all of these assumptions that, mobility, and I even had these assumptions. I'll come back to that. But so we tried to build a solution that actual humans and people would use, that they can self-direct their career. So we tried the pendulum's always been over here, with the corporation and the leadership and the managers deciding who does what next. We tried to swing that pendulum way over here to what the employee wants. And we're seeing actual results because it works, because people are like, oh, no, wait, I actually do want to do this next thing. I am thinking about maybe a lateral move. I want to pick up these skills over here. I don't necessarily want to always go up. I would like to maybe right size my role for where my life is right now, which is what a lot of people are experiencing.
Doesn't that go back to that assumption thing? That assumption thing. I don't know about you guys, but I bet you have one of these friends. I have someone who hasn't actually had a conversation with me in probably 20 years, but loves to go, oh, I know what you're like. And it's like, it's the same when your employer does it. Yeah. Well, I know what you want next in your role. It's like, no, you don't. You have no idea what's going on in my head.
Exactly.
I mean, I loved it last week when, it wasn't last week, it was the week before, wasn't it? When Jess was saying, like, we're all these really complicated computers all writing in different programming language. And it's like, what? And you're trying to say, this is what we want next.
Yeah. And with that, like, so not only is that just rife with bias, you think you know what I want, right?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. And the other component is you think you know what I do and what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And so we always put people in a box of whatever their job title is or whatever they do for us. And the story I love to remind people all the time is, as long as I've been in recruiting, I've been writing technology. So I wrote my first website in 1995. I wrote front end. I've been writing front end code, modern front end code since the 08s.
Yeah.
I'm
And you
pretty
also
badass.
obviously have the back of that person that helps you as well.
Oh, no. He
You see
writes
his
all the
front
back
sometimes?
end. I write all the front end.
No, I meant
Right? And
literally his back.
You see the back of him. It's just really
Yeah.
fun.
Is it?
By the way, sorry, can I just Eleanor, who's on LinkedIn, if you really want to join us, I can't add the link, but I'm sure it's in the description. Come over to Crowdcast.
Come and join us there.
Yeah. I can't add the link. I don't know why it won't let me add the link. It's so
There's
annoying.
an interesting kind of dynamic that we both, we kind of touched on there, in so much as what a company needs from an individual and how they think about that person progressing through their company compared to what that individual is thinking about in terms of their career holistically. And like you say, from a company perspective, they make assumptions based on the role you're in and the progression they can offer you based on where you are and what actually, kind of leans towards that company. I'm going to throw in another piece here, which Katrina absolutely loves, which is a generational kind of comparisons.
Typecasting bollocks.
Yeah, exactly. That right there. In so much as, the kind of growth of that kind of portfolio career where, the kind of Gen Zs are like, well, yeah, maybe I want to start as a designer. Then I want to go into programming. And then I might actually want to go into sort of change management or leadership. And they're looking at, companies or a kind of map of how they can get there.
Yeah.
And if you can't kind of offer that or open up a conversation around that, basically they're going to leave. So therefore, you're not retaining that talent that could actually grow with your company and add more value, which segues into the kind of title, right? Layoffs versus
100%.
redeployment.
Right. It's 100% true, Glenn. Like, it's the hubris that organizations come to mobility with is staggering, right? Like what's best for your talent. No, you don't. Because you don't have a conversation with them. And even if you did have a conversation with them, you assume that they trust you. They don't. Because you've done nothing to build that trust, right? So one of the key features of the WORQDRIVE platform is that all of your employee data is anonymized. So that we can build trust and you can eliminate that bias of, oh, I thought Tracey was just this, or I thought Glenn wanted this out of his career. You don't know shit, so stop pretending you do.
Yeah. And I think that whole piece around, even if you are having the conversations with people, there's still so much fear to be vulnerable. And the funny thing is, it really does take into our age before you're kind of like, I don't give a shit if I say I don't know how to do something. Whereas actually when you're younger, which is again going back to that piece of the 20s and the 30s, and you're deciding, well, actually, they're not going to be honest and share. So I love that it's anonymized. Didn't you say people go in like once every 6 days as well? To see
every
what jobs
6
are on
days,
there?
4 times a month.
Extraordinary. That's more than LinkedIn for most people.
It's absurd. We've been live in the platform's been live and in the market for a little over a year now. And 3 things we learned in the last year, because one of the things that I love about making stuff is I don't know shit either. Like, it's none of us know anything about anything.
We all learn. We came into this world knowing nothing.
Right. I'm going to throw something out into the universe, and I'm either going to prove myself right, or I'm going to go, Jesus, I didn't know what I was talking about, which is totally fine. I learned 3 things. One thing I learned was, if you build something sticky, even about somebody's career, they'll use it. So if you build it for them, they'll use it. Like Katrina said, they log in every 6 days. The other thing that I did not really realize was I always thought mobility was for salaried career people moving up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the kind of vertical kind of growth, right?
But you said the lateral, but is it not just for salaried?
54% of the applications that flowed through the system last year were hourly, moving to other hourly roles.
Interesting.
I know. I didn't I thought it was one thing, and it turns out that it's something completely
different. How many decades have you been in the recruitment industry?
3 or 4.
Let's go 3. So, and Glenn and
I
got
20. That would be incorrect.
She started when she was 3. And
9 years old, yeah.
And Glenn's been in about 15. I've been in about nearly 20. So We didn't know that.
Yep. And Steve just commented, like, even professionals. Yes. So
Yes.
the majority of applications that have flowed through our system are lateral, right? They just, because if you think about it, it is a pyramid. Like, there are fewer roles up and up and up. And not everybody wants to go up. It's like that whole like, oh, everybody wants to be a manager. I'm like, I know some of the most amazing individual contributors that have been individual contributors for 30 years, and that's what they love doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we have to stop assuming that we know what people want out of their life and their career at any moment. And we have to stop this idea that everything is a snapshot. Like, where we are today, this is a snapshot of Tracey and Glenn and Katrina and all the listeners today. But we'll be different tomorrow.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Srinivasa writes a brilliant comment here. Some organizations, brackets, especially during these times, really want people to decide their future and take up roles that they want to do so that they are going to add more value. And also in terms of promotions, if employees feel they're ready for the next level, don't wait, go for it. Talk to your manager.
Yeah, really it's a fair point. But at the same token, how would an individual feel? So you just touched upon, kind of changing of hours and that. Sometimes people don't want an actual progression. They just want more of a work-life balance.
Yes.
So post-pandemic, they want to be, they want to have a bit more flexibility. So as a hiring manager, not every conversation around a kind of change and shape and scope of the role is about somebody wanting progression. You've got to be just open to listening, right? Surely. I mean, that's a starting point. Be curious, listen. And then start to think about what you could potentially do.
Which was the point Tracey made about not necessarily wanting to be promoted. I have never wanted to lead a team or be a manager, or I'm just like, I won't have anyone. Like, I'm just me. And even back when, Glenn and I working together, I never wanted that. And not everyone will confess to that as well. So of course, sorry.
No, go for it.
No, I was just going to bring us on to topic. So this came about because obviously we have this situation. I mean, I still feel like we overfired in 2020 and overhired in 2021. There's some leveling out going on. But then you also see these companies who are laying off, which is making the press scare us into redundancy. But they're laying off over here and they're hiring over here, which is kind of crazy. But I did just want to say, I got relayed a personal story this morning by somebody who had sold up everything. And you've probably heard this story, but just in case you haven't, sold up everything on the basis of that signed contract offer to start. And 3 days before they were to move from South America to Europe, I'm trying not to say who the company is, the offer was rescinded. We are playing with people's lives. So if you're a company, and actually Elizabeth Lemke said this to me the other day, we should not hire anybody unless we know we're going to keep them through a recession, through a downturn. And I just think push back.
Yeah.
Anyway, so...
Yeah. And
this is why we wanted to have this show about this whole, why are we laying off when we're hiring over here?
Well, it doesn't make any sense. And I get it. Like, I've talked about this repeatedly on LinkedIn and Twitter and on the internets. Do we just not know what's happening inside the business? Like, does one hand not know what the other hand is doing? Or is it that this is just the easiest path to toy with people's lives? And are we really that far removed from the humans to do the work with us? Right? I can't understand why, if we are laying off 400 people and we have 800 open roles, why are we not trying to save a percentage of those people? And are all of these people transferable skills? Probably not. Could we save 10% of them? Could we save 20% of them? Why are we not even trying? Like, it frustrates me. It makes me very upset. And it makes me very upset to see companies like, we're people first, and then doing shit like this. And I absolutely, I am over it. I am calling everybody's bluff. I'm sending notes to CEOs. I'm like, hey, y'all, did you know that this is happening? And do you know that you could have saved it? And do you know? And I know that this is not your, I know this is the team that you're trusting with this, but they're failing you. So stop failing them.
Do you think, to your point, Tracey, is it just a subset of an old kind of corporate structure and model? This team, we need to scale it down. This team, we need to scale it up. We lay off these people, we're hiring here. That's a good trade-off on a CFO's budget sheet, right? Okay, if we're gonna hire here, then we need to kind of get some saving from elsewhere, et cetera, as opposed to actually thinking about a process of kind of redeployment, which for some companies, they might not even know where to start with something like that.
Correct. Right. When you have to know by
But there are
understanding
amazing tools, aren't there? Like WORQDRIVE.
I know,
that can really
like,
help with that.
But again, if there's no awareness of how to start and actually no appetite because they don't understand the value of it, then they're not even going to look into the technology. It's just kind of like, this is what we've always done and it's always worked for us. So how do we open up that conversation internally to sort of be like, okay, cool, stop.
Yep.
There is another option here.
Well,
how would you approach that?
Yeah, and what I've always found with CFOs, they respond to dollars. Right? So, you know, if you just laid off 400 people, what are you paying in severance? What if you were paying less than that in severance because you were, you know, laying off fewer people? What is the PR of these layoffs doing to your brands?
Yeah.
How expensive?
And what about when you are hiring? How much will it be?
So how much are those hires over there going to cost you? Knowing what's happening over here, you're going to lengthen your time to fill because your PR is so bad. So we talk about this is a numbers decision. And if this is a numbers decision, you are not looking at the whole numbers picture, which makes you a very difficult steward of the company's financials if you are not looking at the big picture of what this is actually costing you. You're not saving anything.
And the hidden costs as well, right? Because, you know, if you're doing layoffs, you're doing consultancies for layoffs, that takes the leaders' time, that takes HR's time. You know, you may not be able to put an exact figure on that, but while they're doing that, they're certainly not putting 100% into leading the team and the efficiency and kind of deliverables that team or function have got. So there's a kind of layered kind of cost.
We need a calculator for that. I saw a calculator the other day for failed recruitment, which was quite a terrifying figure, like £20,000 per failed recruitment. And then, so that was Spec, but there should be one that will actually calculate that out. That would be really powerful.
Yeah. And then what about the leader having to go through that process of laying off the team? How are they feeling? They're probably feeling pretty shitty right then. And the last thing they want to do, and last thing they want to do is then go, okay, cool, let's go on a massive recruitment drive because I'm feeling really good about this company right now.
Well, and then we're gonna double down and talk about wellness benefits. We're gonna need some wellness benefits after this layoff. Like, I'm gonna need some mental health support. This is not a good experience for anyone. Like, do you know the sleepless nights a leader goes through? Most leaders, not all leaders.
Steve has pointed out not all.
Not all of them.
Everyone
needs
to be in the room.
Right, but you know, you go.
Oh my God! You do know that Grim Reaper is back from the late 1900s. You're going to have to explain.
I do. Yeah, I know. I'm just bringing it all forward with me. Just bringing the yesteryear to today. But one of the things that we actually sat down when you were talking about, you know, the soft costs and the numbers and stuff like that. I think in the United States, the turnover was so horrible last year with the Great Resignation that it ended up costing U.S. businesses $2.4 trillion.
Wow.
In turnover. And in the UK alone, I want to say it was 880 billion pounds.
Wow.
That's expensive.
It doesn't feel like we had a Great Resignation here, though, did we?
You did have a significant amount of turnover last year.
I do find it bizarre because, you know, mind you, let's not talk about the British economy, but I do see so many people getting jobs, which is really nice. My feed is just full of people getting jobs, so that's quite lovely. Just for whatever's going on.
Yeah,
lots of layoffs,
changing jobs.
See people getting new ones.
Sure. And that goes back to the whole earliest conversation, right? If managers think and leaders think that they know the talent, they know the people in the organization and what they want to do next, then why do they keep leaving? Like, if you're so good at this, why are they leaving?
But that goes back to that. If you haven't created a space where people can be truly, what do they call it? Radical candor, or whatever. I haven't read the book. And again, I think that, you know, Steve also pointed that out. I think that comes with age, where you actually will be really honest. But
and they don't know, right? So
it's that feeling of, I'm not going to be really vulnerable with my leaders. They haven't created that psychological safety for me to feel like I can say, do you know what? I'm really unhappy here. It's like, and this is why. And, if you just tweaked this, I'd feel better. But people have a fear to do that. They're scared that they'll lose their job. Even though they could see all the other jobs out there, it's still like a couple of pages.
Radical candor is horseshit for almost everyone. Steve is my new favorite person.
Because of the fact you don't feel like you can genuinely be that way, right?
Well, no, because most people weaponize radical candor to be assholes.
Okay. Is that okay? That's not what I meant. I just meant like
I know.
Really honest about this is what I need. It's really interesting. Actually, I was having another conversation with someone. We've put in a bid for a piece of work, and she's like, "Oh, I've been really blunt with them because they go like, they don't realize what they're doing, and they've come back to her, and she's quite shocked." And I went, "Yes, because you have been blunt, and they're open to hearing what's best for the company." And I think most leaders are not necessarily open to hearing what's best for the company. So how can they do that? How can they become that? Do we go back to the financials? I mean,
I always go back to the financials. And look, that's what leaders speak. They don't speak soft. They don't speak engagement. They don't speak anything but financials. And because they're trying, that's what they speak.
As in CEOs, CFOs, COOs, etc.
Right. And even our HR leaders, they've got to start speaking that language if they really want to get there, right? Like, they have to understand the costs. And I think it's just dawned on me, this goes a little bit deeper. So if I don't have trust as an employee, and let's say I am a leader of HR, and my C-suite peers come to me and they say, okay, we're going to have a reduction in force, and we're going to have to let hundreds of people go. As that HR leader, do I have enough confidence and ability to come back and bluntly state, do you understand the costs of doing that? And I don't know if we do.
That's always a challenge, right? It would take a very radical HR person to push back on, maybe a unanimous leadership team decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's anything in the likes of the CIPD and the SHRMs of the world that actually teach that, like that actually say, part of your role is to be able. I'm just not sure that it's taught.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that. But when I will tell you that this is happening across some businesses, like some businesses, HR leaders are saying, no, we're not doing that. We're actually going to either use the tools that we have, or we're going to cobble together a solution, and we're going to talk to solution providers, and we're going to fix this, right? Because this is not the way forward for our business. This is not what we espouse to the public. This is not what we say we are as an employer, and we have to do better. And we're going to start by doing better in this way. One of our customers was involved in their military government contractor, and they were involved in the drawdown in Afghanistan. So when the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan, they're like, okay, we're leaving. And our customer was like, Tracey, let's get WORQDRIVE into all of these, 2,700 people's hands in a war zone, and let's get them out. And we did. We got about half the people out within 30 days. And that's what technology can do for somebody. That's what your company can create comfort in times of crisis, right? And we forget that. Like, we forget that, hey, everybody, if we are reading the news about redundancies and layoffs and recession, if we're reading that, guess what? All your people are too. And guess what else? They're freaking out because they don't have firsthand knowledge of what's happening.
Yeah. And I also think because they don't have the firsthand knowledge, they're being, in such a change. And really, it's been since the pandemic where you see them literally go to LinkedIn and just put, I couldn't log into the system this morning. Oh, I've been let go. But I found out because I couldn't log into the system. And you're just like,
ew.
There is no excuse for that kind of behavior. No. But I wonder, and I hate my generational typecasting bollocks, but I wonder if that goes back to the age group of the organizational leaders still being in the very old, out of date, what they learned from the silent generation and beyond thoughts and processes that, like, the people don't matter.
Is there another? Oh, sorry, go on. Is there
I'm just going. I don't know what
was
goes
just
through
thinking,
somebody's mind when they think that's okay. I can't even guess.
It hasn't happened. Then again, I was going to say it hasn't happened to them, but look at how many TA professionals were let go. Fucking hate that expression. Oh, sorry. This just went out with LinkedIn with my potty mouth, but I dislike that expression because you're not letting go of anyone, you're firing them in 2020 and have actually lost all of that compassion and empathy here in 2022. But anyway, sorry, Glenn, you were trying to speak.
No, I was just going to say, I think, the technology is there to utilize it, but it goes beyond that, right? The technology itself is not going to fix this. Yeah. It's going to facilitate it. So when you're kind of coming in to talk to the kind of leadership team, Tracey, what are the typical pushbacks? Okay, this platform will do this, but we do this way and we do this that way because of X. I'm interested to kind of understand the sort of things that you immediately face when you come in to talk about, kind of this kind of mobility exercise. And then we plot from there.
Right. Yeah. So we typically hear two different pieces of pushback, and both of them I find wildly entertaining.
Okay, cool. This is good. I like this.
Okay. So the first one is, we already have this. Oh, tell me what you have. Right. I'm very interested. Okay. Tell me. Because there are a number of providers on the market. So who are you using?
Yeah, there's like 3. Give us a break. There are hardly any.
But my favorite is, we have an internal job board.
Ooh,
and how long have you had that internal job board? I mean, we've had it for 15 or 20 years. Okay. And so you're talking to me because you already have the thing. So it's obviously working. Oh, no, it doesn't work. So you don't have it.
Yeah.
No one's applying. Or if they do, the hiring manager won't let go of them anyway. So
that's the other one we have.
Manager won't let go.
Yeah.
That's the other one. So the first one is, we have an internal job board. And then I walk them through the scenario of, okay, so does everybody know about the internal job board? And they're like, what? I'm like, well, how many people used the job board last year? Oh, I don't know. Okay, so I'll go do the research for you, and then I'll come back and say, so roughly 8% of your workforce used the internal job board. Cool. And you lost how many last year? 45%. Oh, okay. So they didn't know. And then I saw that like their conversion rate on the internal job board was about 5 times less likely than externals. So they don't like this. The ones that heard about it don't like it. So this doesn't work. And let me tell you why it doesn't work. It doesn't work because they either don't know about it. And when they do know about it, they go there and they're really pissed off and they go do a really aspirational search, like 3 or 4 levels above where they are. And they apply for that job that's way out of their skill set and their strike zone because they're mad and they want something better. And they go there and they apply for that job and they don't get the job. And then they're really, really mad and they leave.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they all look at me like, yeah, that sounds about right. I'm like, okay, so what you have, yes, you do have something. It clearly doesn't work. We need to reimagine that, and which is what we've done. So the second one is even funnier because I've started to go on a straight up scorched earth approach on this one. Yeah, our managers are not going to like this. Do they like when people are leaving now anyway? No. Oh, okay. So either way, they're going to be happy. Do they think that they can actually control anything in this scenario? Well, they want to. I know. And you know what I want? I would like a very, very lovely large drink on a beach chair right now with none of you in my purview. That's what I would like. So the manager, the managers are, it's, and a couple of years ago, there was a stat, I think it was LinkedIn. I think it was their talent trends report, global talent trends report. And it was 70% of TA professionals say that managers are the barrier to getting mobility done. Oh, okay. So if managers are the barrier, right? Oh, LinkedIn stats. But if managers are there, and we hear this all the time because it's the number one pushback, like, our hiring managers would be too mad that we did something like this. They would be losing their people. I'm like, and they're losing them anyway. So when are we going to stop, blaming it on them. So 70% say that it's the managers. The number one reason people leave a company is the manager. And all of these things point back to the manager, and we're letting the manager run the show, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I do these amazing design thinking workshops. So if you're having that problem, please give me a call, and then we'll get Tracey's check-in on the back of me running a workshop. Seriously, it's just let me come and sort these problems out. No, because this is the kind of stuff I can sort out. It's like, it just
100%.
the poor people. It goes back all the time to the people, right? That's all I care about. The people coming through the recruitment process, but it doesn't matter where they're coming from. And it just frustrates me that
it's a whole
not
ostrich
educating our managers, right?
Yeah. And we, cyclically in our, in the recruiting space, cyclically, we suffer from two really unique syndromes. One is shiny object syndrome, right? We love the shiny objects. Like this year I was at HR Tech a couple weeks ago, and it was all talent intelligence, right? And you could go to all the booths and say, what does that mean, right? What does talent intelligence mean to you? And they would hedge
if
and
you don't know,
backpedal.
Toby Culshaw does have a book coming out shortly on it, which will actually explain it properly.
Great. I wish all the sales reps on the floor would have read that book before
Toby's
it came
book.
out.
Is it out yet? Let me have a look while you're doing
Talent intelligence.
Right, do that.
Yeah.
So,
He properly. No.
Shiny objects, right?
This one isn't. Everyone else
He's good.
is. He's not.
He's good.
Really good.
So shiny objects, right? We love them. But here's the thing. We never buy them. We demo the shit out of them. And I've been a buyer, right? Like we love the shiny objects. We love talking about the shiny objects. We like talking about that we might buy a shiny object. And at the end of the day, we don't buy a shiny object because then something gets in the way, like a recession or a pandemic or layoffs or whatever, or we're too busy to implement something new. So we have this amazing dichotomy of we love the shiny object, but we're too busy or too excuse ridden to buy it and implement it. And then 2 years go past and then we say, well, it didn't work.
Well, don't worry, Tracey. They don't need to buy the shiny object because the hiring managers can do that for them, right? Why do we need to buy that technology? Our hiring managers can do that.
Let's just the hiring manager do it.
Absolutely. Hang on, putting the link. No, that admittedly is the British link to the book in the.
Perfect.
Yeah, no. So, in all seriousness, he has done a lot of work in that space. Particularly when he was at Philips, stopping them from opening offices in certain areas because there weren't the people there to staff those offices, etc. So he really is, as opposed to what you were just talking about.
Yes,
he does.
He gets it. And when you talk about talent intelligence, you have to have good data and you have to have fresh data. And that's one of the things that I, spend a lot of time talking to people about. If you don't have data, and if you do have data, cool. When's the last time it's been touched? And how frequently is that data being updated?
Yeah. The relevance of
back
the data,
in the 1990s.
And that's the thing. It's kind of, as opposed to companies that do a snapshot of okay, let's compare this time last year with where we are now. And, they do these kind of cross comparisons of, small data sets, and then they draw kind of conclusions from that, as opposed to it being a kind of consistent review and understanding of the kind of data that they're collating. I always find that one quite funny. Is like, well, our kind of time to hire last year on average was blah, and you're like, okay, yeah, but that was last year, different time. This is this year, different talent market.
Right. Yes, different everything. And we even look at it like we look at the skills data within an organization. Right. And if we say, okay, let's pull in all of the employee data from our system, whatever system it is. Well, that data is a snapshot of the last time they've interacted with that data, which was probably when they applied. They're not updating the data, right? It's old data. You have no idea what somebody's doing right now, which is one of the problems that we're trying to solve. Real skills-based insights is important to a business. Understanding what you have in-house is the first problem that people are trying to solve. We don't even know what people do here, let alone where the gaps are. And we're relying on old data for that. And it's, it's not valuable data. And then people are like, well, we tried to do a skills database of our company and nobody participated. And I was like, well, what was your carrot? Like, what do they get out of giving you all this stuff? And they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Because
Okay, cool.
What's in it for me?
Yeah. Let's go back to that scenario though. So you completely pitched to me like, okay, our internal job board is crap. Your platform is definitely going to deliver a more dynamic approach to this, right? But hey, like we're paying for the cost of your platform, and aren't we paying for skills training as well? So isn't that doubling our cost compared to hiring in fresh talent? And I'm just role playing this because it's just kind of like I'm thinking along the lines of that cost element. It's like, okay, cool. So we bring in a platform, we can mobilize people internally, but that may result in additional costs of training. So where's the value prop for that?
Yeah, well, it's cheaper than bringing somebody fresh in. And that's the piece that people oftentimes forget, Glenn. And that's the thing. Like, yeah, it is a cost to have something like this and to have that fresh data and to have opportunities and to have the carrot for your people. But you already have a learning and development system and you're helping them upskill, but you don't even know what you're helping them upskill because you don't know what they do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that missing link between learning and development and movement.
It's connecting, basically. It's actually making a connected kind of journey for your people, right? And equally as well, I'm sure, Tracey, you're sitting there going, well, listen, look, leadership team, if you want a 12-month fix, this is not going to work for you, right? If you're thinking about the long-term sustainability of your people and they're in your business.
And the productivity.
Yeah, exactly. Let's keep the conversation going, right? Because it's not like one of these things you drop in for 12 months. Let's trial it for 12 months and see how it goes. It's kind of you've got to make a definitive commitment to this, right?
Yeah. Yes. And you have to make sure that people, like, one of the reasons that people use our system so much is that there are so many different carrots, right? It is matching learning and development to your skills. It is finding your next job. It is, it is allowing recruiters to source you and tap you for new roles. It is providing,
which they should be doing first, right? When they get the job, they should be going internal first before they go external.
So years ago, I've talked about the advertise last model. Like, you should advertise last. Like, you should not advertise first. Step one, who here could do this?
Yeah.
Step two is, who do they know or who applied to us in the past that already is aware of us as an entity would be good. And then who does our network know? And if all of that comes up dry, then advertise.
That though reminds me, like the referral program reminds me of your thing with we have an internal job board, but nobody knows about it.
Yeah,
the referral
that's because it's buried in a 60-page. Yeah, buried in a 60-page employee handbook, right? It's like, we make people aware of it if they read past page 5. I think it's on page 25, and there's a little URL in there.
I would suggest that they make a nice notification and put it on the back of the toilet door. Maximum impact. Obviously, if people go to the office, it doesn't help if people are remote.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. Like, Glenn, you were alluding to this. Like, none of these solutions are set it and forget it. Like, it is a constant. It should be a constant reminder. It should be a constant we have referral, we have internal mobility, we have these things. We want you to stay, and we value your network. That is, all the town halls should open with that.
And and then in those, the research has also shown it's the quick thank you. You send a referral, say thank you. It's not always about the money. It's about the appreciation that you did the referral or the, whatever, they've been open. And then talk about those wins. Oh gosh, Tracey's moved from this department to this department, blah, blah, blah. And how great was her manager that they were willing to let her go and learn something new and stay in the company in a different area. Like, well done. We know that takes something.
Yes, it has to be consistent. It's never, it's like all the work that we do in recruiting, it never ends.
Yeah. I think there's got to be a mindset shift to accompany that though, right? Within the hiring team, the leadership team, in so much as, what we're not advocating is like short 6 to 9 month planning around your team, but equally just thinking on the lines of these kind of scenarios that you may, instead of losing 20% of your team to a competitor or a different business, you may be thinking about what 20% of your team will be doing within the business they're in. Kind of, is there a pathway that we can start to talk to them about, or at least open up a conversation for them to think about what that looks like?
Yes.
And kind of almost being part of that conversation, as opposed to somebody sitting down in front of you going, okay, cool, I either want to leave or find me something internally. And I appreciate that adds more kind of time to the responsibilities of a leader, but at the same token, it's time well invested. Because trust me, if that person leaves to a different company, man, you're going to be investing a lot of time in kind of recruitment, right?
Well, they're also taking all their knowledge of your company to the other company, aren't they? Which could be a competitor. So there's that, but also just getting someone else up to speed and all that entails. It's
Right.
it is time, but it goes like, it's like the intake, isn't it? The more time that you give it up front, the less you waste down the line. That's just
100%.
got to change thinking.
Yeah,
100% indeed. And
yeah,
I mean, tell us some good news stories, Tracey, about kind of like the companies you've been working with, like the example you gave about the kind of military contract company. When they really realize the benefits of a platform and this type of approach, what are companies seeing? What are they seeing? Kind of retention rates, et cetera, et cetera. What good news stories are you seeing?
Yeah, they do see retention. They do see retention go like they're retaining more people because they're moving around. One of the other fascinating pieces is offer accept rates on internal talent is 100%. Right. So it's not a question, right? It's like, oh, they're totally going to stay because they want to stay. Right. So if they're logging in every 6 days, they want to stay.
Awkward if you didn't, though, isn't it? You went through the whole interview process and were like, actually, I think Glenn will be a really shit manager. Fuck, how do I get out of
this? But my favorite thing that's happened in the last year is the love letters we get to the support email. And we don't, another surprise is that we maybe get a support email, like a ticket, like I can't log in once a month. We don't get a lot of support tickets. And, and when you build software, that's unusual. But we get more love letters to the support line than we get tickets. And there are things like, I feel like this was built for me. I really feel like the company wants me to stay. I feel like this was made for me. I want to grow here. And the reason we do this is for the people. Like, I think it's great that we saved all these people in a war zone. And I think that's amazing. And I think that's a wonderful success story. But when we get little love letters from people that are staying at a company and they tell us how powerful this technology has been to not just them, but their family. And, hey, a contract was ending because I was, there were some IT services companies. And one of our biggest customers is like that. Like, they have a variety of contracts all over the world. And when you provide people an opportunity when their contract is ending to move to a different contract and not have to leave and not have to really look for a new job because we matched them to the right job. And we gave them that comfort. Like, those are the things that light up my day. Like, we have a bunch of those love letters printed out and like around the office so that we can every now and then remember when, we've got this big hairy problem that we're trying to solve around the algorithm, to go, oh, this is why we do it.
Because of the people.
Right.
And it's that you're also saving them, like you said, from going through the hiring process, which is so depressing. It is inhumane so often.
It is. And nobody likes being the new kid at school. Like, it's hard to be the new kid. And that's what everybody is when they start a job. Like, they start a new job, they're the new kid. They have to figure out where to sit at lunch. They need to figure out who to trust. They need to figure out where their friends are. And we do that at work. And to save people from doing that, they can move to a new team where the culture is the same. Like, that feels, that's why we do it.
I'm thinking right at the beginning as well. So if you're kind of, conducting introductory calls or kind of initial first stage interviews with individuals joining that business, one of the most common questions is, okay, what's the kind of growth potential of this role? How do you how do you kind of invest in training? How do you, kind of, map out the growth potential of a role or the pathway of a role? And if you can turn around and go, okay, cool. So our hiring team are really bought into, internal mobility. We have an R&D platform that focuses on the sort of skills and experience you want, and to facilitate that kind of internal, kind of conversation. Because this is the thing, right? It's not referring to the platform. It's about what it instigates, which is a conversation around progression. We have, we have a framework in place supported by a platform that starts that conversation around, training you and or you looking at that next move internally, whether that's kind of vertical, horizontal, etc. That's a really well informed and really powerful response, as opposed to, well, yeah, we have a budget for training and development, and we're mapping out the career pathways at the moment, and then suddenly somebody's like, okay, cool, so this is not really anything that's joint. This is not really it depends on the team I join. I might find that this is really defined, or actually they haven't got a clue.
But it goes back to the beginning again, because I've been getting lots of conversations again around my workshops, but they're all starting with, I'm mapping out their career development or their development plan. I'm like, are you? Interesting. I wonder what they actually want. And it's like,
that's adorable.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do a workshop,
thanks
find out
for doing
what they actually
that.
want, rather than you telling them, right? Reminds me of my friend who always tells me what I'm like, and I'm like, you fucking have no idea.
Thanks for mapping out my career for me.
Yeah, but I have this conversation a lot. You've got wrong way around.
Yes.
Starting a conversation. Right? That's the key.
We're trying to control something that we can't control.
Yeah. But at the same time, going back to that psychological safety, why they love the design thinking, the agile, whatever you want to call it, getting them to write it anonymously almost. Yeah, it's completely different.
Yeah. And that is one of the keys for our platform. And that's one of the things that people come back and they're like, we feel safe and we feel like we can, our adoption rates on this software are ungodly, right? It's shocking. Like, we were surprised. I love being surprised all the time. And I in case you didn't notice, I don't mind being wrong. So
I could just imagine some of those conversations
that comes with being older.
Yeah.
We just don't care anymore. We're like, oh God, we made a mistake. Okay, moving on.
Oh, look at that.
We learned. Thank you. We won't do it again.
Yeah.
On to the next one.
Yeah. I was going to say, can you imagine some of the conversations I had internally where they had that kind of internal job board? You go into your kind of monthly one-to-one, and there's your leader like, so you've applied for a job in a different team, have you? And it's just kind of like, that's not a good starting point for any kind of conversation, right? Nope. It's really, it should be encouraging and open and, okay, cool. So you're interested in this. Why? What do you think it's going to offer you? Kind of how much thinking have you developed around this? Let me help that or inform or contribute to that kind of thought process. And let's map out a period of time for you to really think and explore that a bit more, whilst, still, kind of delivering in your role. But actually what you're doing is, showing willingness and actually keeping that person motivated, because suddenly they're like, okay, cool. So man, they really want to invest in me and they really want to explore this. And it's back to your point, Katrina, around that kind of, safe space. It's so important.
It needs to start with the top seeing the value and then being basically, getting their hiring managers or getting their managers, I always call them hiring managers, obviously, but they're getting their managers on board to be willing to release one of their team members off to another team. Because it's almost like that, isn't it? Like this, I don't want to let them go.
Oh, wow.
Audra has written here, I got brought in and yelled at by 2 company lawyers once because I spoke to another manager about possibly joining his team. You are such a naughty young lady. Yeah. Seriously. How ridiculous.
That is infuriating.
Did you tell him where to shove it?
I was going to say, we didn't get Audra's reaction to that, which would probably be a little bit like...
They took notes. They took notes of you going F off.
Right.
Wow. I bet you wrote them a lovely glass door review once you left.
I reckon there's probably definitely a verbal response there. I can't imagine Audra sort of, kind of taking that one quietly. No. That's for sure.
Yeah. Actually, I think she probably would just take it quietly and then just leave.
But and
they're the ones you actually need to be concerned about. So for anyone who's ever managed the likes of Tracey or myself, actually Glenn's slightly less gobby.
We're not going to tell you.
No, we will tell you. You've got to be worried about the ones that won't tell you, who will quietly leave.
Yeah.
You and I will stand up and give them the what for. I wouldn't have taken that.
It depends. Well, quite frankly, it depends on if I feel like they deserve that energy.
Good point.
If they're going to learn anything from that exchange and they deserve that energy, I will let them have that energy. If I feel like it's going to be wasted energy, I got to protect every ounce of energy I have.
That's actually very, very, very true.
Yeah.
I'd have seen red in that situation, though.
Oh, yeah.
I would have been like, this is a fascinating conversation.
But just because it just shows so much insecurity in the company.
Yes.
How dare you talk to another manager about it?
They would not. That company would not be a good partner for WORQDRIVE.
No. Not without some new leadership.
My other favorite is Glenn, you asked about pushback, and we had somebody approach us at a conference, and they're like, so we really do need to see the data, and how stuck are you guys on this anonymity thing? And we're like, we're very stuck on it, so you should go talk to this provider and this provider and this provider, because they'll do the spying.
There are only 2 others. I don't know why she suggested 3.
Oh, they're popping up all over the place, Katrina.
Yeah, but they're all like enterprise level, which is ridiculous.
Yes.
This is lovely because it's plug and play, and it can do small. Because there's so many companies between like the 1 to 5,000 that just get overlooked.
Yes.
It's like crazy.
I know. We're going to get them one at a time.
Absolutely.
So it does kind of bring us back to the title of the show. Given everything that we've discussed during the last 56 minutes, why are companies even thinking about laying off staff, right? I mean, there's so many options for them. The kind of layoff should be almost like the absolute last resort.
It should.
You know, it's just kind of like,
and I think
there's so many
think
options.
about Elizabeth's comment to me the other day. We should never hire unless we know we're going to keep them in a downturn, because we should remember that people piece. And then if you are in a situation where you are hiring somewhere else, then it's like you need to really be thinking about what you're doing, because from a cost perspective, from a productivity perspective, from a human perspective, future hiring, future retention, big changes need to happen. Tracey Parsons, if anybody would like to get in contact with you, I know you are that Tracey on Twitter.
Yeah.
I love that.
And if you want to know the backstory, we can take that offline. It's a really good one.
Of that Tracey.
Yeah. Huh? Well, Tracey wasn't available, so we'll talk about that later. But
okay.
You can reach me at that Tracey, and Tracey with an E, so TRACEY, on Twitter. On LinkedIn, I look just like this, and this is what I look like. Tracey
Are you
Parsons.
suggesting some people don't have recent profile pictures?
I am not suggesting that. I'm just letting you know that I do have a mostly recent, but I am due for new headshots. And you can find out about WORQDRIVE at workdrive.com, WORQDRIVE. And if you want to drop me an email, I'm Tracey, TRACEY, at workdrive.com. I'd love to talk to you.
Thank you.
Very cool.
That is amazing.
Very cool. That's been an amazing conversation, Tracey. Really, really cool.
So much.
It shows you how complex the problem is, but it's not fixable. It's just,
100%.
work to be done. Work to be done.
Work to be done.
So 2 weeks' time, we're going to be together again, right?
Oh, are we?
So 12th of October, Joel de Mowbray and Morgan De Silva, who the dynamic duo make up Yes Make. And we're talking about hiring the startups focused on environmental impact. So
like
that one in a couple of weeks' time.
Like it. Hot topic here in the UK at the moment. If anybody saw the Labour Party yesterday, please don't vote for the other one next election. And on that note, sorry, just thought I'd drop in that little political rant. Sorry. Only a forward. But anyway, moving on very quickly before I'm blocked from LinkedIn. Thank you one and all for joining us. Thank you for everyone who's been in the chat. Again, if you are over on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook next time, join us over on Crowdcast where we can actually see your comments. Bye, 100%. Everyone. Thanks, Tracey.
Thanks, Tracey.
Bye.